Welcome to NMP Talk Show, where we delve into the depths of mental health wellness with compassion, understanding, and expertise. Our goal is to provide a safe space for open conversations about mental health, destigmatize the issues surrounding it, and offer insights and resources to support your journey towards a healthier mind and soul.
Hey everyone, welcome back to NMP Talk Show. I'm Neumra Bedi, your host, and I am so excited that you have joined us today. This is the space where we get to have a real conversation that helps us to live a healthier, a better, and more informed life. And now today, we're going to talk about something that affects so many people, but it's still often misunderstood. What are we talking about? We're talking about obesity, and more specifically, how obesity can be managed with medical support and what that means, not just for weight loss, but also for the things like skin health, aging, confidence, and overall wellness. Because the truth is, obesity is more about, it's not even more about the scale, the number on the scale. It's connected to hormones, inflammation, energy, mental health, and yes, even what we see in the mirror. So, to help us break this down properly, I'm joined by someone who really understands this field. I'm really happy to welcome Dr. Lesego Sihume Kanzi. Doctor, welcome to NMP Talk Show.
Thank you. Thanks for inviting me.
That's great. So, a little bit about Dr. Lesego. She's a medical professional with a special interest in aesthetic medicine, along with obesity management and holistic wellness. So, she brings a really unique perspective, helping people improve their health in sustainable way, while also supporting skin quality, confidence, and overall well-being. Doctor, we really appreciate you joining us here on NMP Talk Show.
Thank you.
Now, let's start simple, with this topic, just to ground everyone. What exactly is obesity?
So, obesity is a chronic medical disease. Let's start off there first. It's really important to understand that it is a medical disease, and it's defined at the moment by using a measure that measures your weight and your height, and that would then give you what we call the body mass index. So, body mass index that's above 30 would give you obesity, and anywhere between 25 and 30, that would mean that one is overweight.
When it comes to treatment, how is obesity treated, especially when we're talking about medical support?
Okay. So I'd actually like to take a little step back, please, if you let me. Like I said,
Yeah,
obesity is a
yes,
chronic
please.
medical disease, and I'm going to keep saying the same thing over and over again because there's a big stigma that's associated with obesity where people think that obesity is something that is a personal failure, it's a moral failure, it's something that we have done to ourselves. Nobody
Mm,
causes themselves to become obese, just like nobody causes themselves to become hypertensive. Nobody causes themselves to develop diabetes. And if we can accept that those are medical diseases that need to be treated, then we can accept that obesity needs to be treated in the same way, right? So if one
okay.
looks at the prevalence of obesity in our society, did you know that in 2024, it was found that 3/4 of South African adults are either overweight or obese, right? 50% of adolescents are either overweight and obese. And those are
Hold on.
huge numbers. Mhm.
Wait. Here in South Africa or
In
around the
South
world?
Africa. In South Africa.
In South Africa.
Yeah. So we
Mm,
have one of the highest prevalences of obesity in the world. And it's really interesting to look and see where obesity is mostly distributed. One would actually expect that obesity is a disease of excess, right? The more money you have, the more obese you'd be. Actually,
yeah,
it's the opposite.
yeah.
Yeah. The less
Mm,
money one has, the more likely one is to be obese. Although it's also been found recently that that is the opposite, specifically amongst African women. But be that as it may, um, because we have such a huge obesity problem in South Africa, it's really important that we start to treat it because we know that this disease is associated with increased risk of cardiac disease, of kidney disease, of depression, of cancers. So these are
Mm,
really, really huge
mm,
things that we can help to prevent just by managing obesity. So you asked me how we manage obesity. First thing is to
yeah.
identify it as a disease, and then to look at the different guidelines that we use to treat it. So at the moment, we've just developed new guidelines in South Africa that were released in October. They're fantastic. They're based on the Canadian guidelines. And first line of treatment for obesity now is the GLP medications. So your glucagon-like peptides and the GIP medications. And these are the peptides that everybody's talking about.
Okay. All right. So how do you administer now those medication? Is
So
that a monthly thing or yeah?
yeah, so there are four different peptides that are registered in South Africa for use in obesity. The one
Yeah.
is liraglutide, which is the once daily injectable. And then one has Wegovy, which is, I guess, the big brother of the one that we all know as Ozempic, right? That's the name that everybody knows. And this is the second drug that's registered for obesity management in South Africa. And the third one is a medication that's called tirzepatide, also recently registered for chronic weight management in South Africa. These two, last two that I spoke about, are once weekly injectables, but there's a lot of research and development looking at registering oral versions of these medications and also developing other peptides as well.
Okay. Huh. That's a mouthful. Now, you've touched a little bit on this one, and I think a lot of people are still asking, or maybe they're even judging themselves. Um, is obesity something that is self-inflicted, or is it actually more complicated than that? You've touched on it, but let's expand a little bit on it.
It's a lot more complicated than that. Number one, nobody
Mm,
causes themselves to become obese. It's not self inflicted, it's a medical disease.
yeah.
And that underpins how one would then be treated. You know, I
Mm,
found that when one is obese, it's associated with so much guilt and trauma. For example, if somebody has high blood pressure, right? They're not written
yeah.
hypertension on their foreheads. And so when they go out and they're with their friends in a restaurant, nobody judges them. They carry on with their lives. And when they say, oh, I have high blood
Mm,
pressure, everybody says, oh, shame. I hope you're on treatment. Yet, when somebody is obese, you can see it. And this
mm,
person walks into a restaurant, and then you'll find somebody else who has nothing to do with them, looking at them thinking, I wouldn't eat that if I were you. You know, can you
yes.
imagine the effect that that has on somebody about a disease
Mm,
that they
yeah.
did not cause on them to themselves? You know, so no,
Mm.
obesity is not your fault. It is a medical condition that needs to be treated.
So when you treat the obesity, does it come also with helping them deal with the current situation, or you just only focus on treating how to lose weight?
So it looks at health. Right. So the big thing that we are all concerned about right now is the number on the scale, the weight. So that's not actually the
Mm,
objective. The objective is to improve overall health. So if we're going to be treating overall health, that means our physical health, cardiac, kidney, is our mental health. How well are we?
mental.
You know, how
Yeah.
resilient are we? Right. That also includes things like looking at one's lifestyle. So do you exercise enough, which is super important to reduce inflammation in the body. You know, reduce the risk, well, the rate at which one ages. Are we eating the
Mm.
right foods? Are we getting healthy foods into our diets? All of that really plays a role, you know. So I'd also like to just mention something that is quite important. For decades, us as doctors have also been part of judging people and shaming people, right? Because when somebody is
Mm.
obese, we'll be like, you have done something bad, eat less, move more. And that was the wrong way of treating, because if that worked, there would be no obese people in the world. And yet here we are,
That's true.
right? So that means that we
Mm.
need to do things differently. Exercise is a part of obesity management. Eating well is a part of obesity management, but the cornerstone of obesity treatment is medical treatment.
So they don't just go to gym or they walk. They have to be treated medically.
They have to be treated. One thing that I forgot to mention, which is actually quite big, is also the option of bariatric surgery. There's definitely a place for bariatric surgery. It's super important because that has also been found to reduce cardiovascular risk massively in a short space of time. But this just means that we need to treat patients as patients, treat them medically, whether it's medication, surgery, um,
Mm.
psychological treatment, but all of those things need to happen. All of them.
Mm. Okay, that makes sense. Now, Doc, I want us to connect this to skin and aesthetics, what you really specialize in.
Yes. So that really,
I wish everyone, especially those on Telegram, could see what the doctor looks like, and she looks the part. If I have to say. So, what effect does medically supported weight loss have on skin quality and even in aging?
so we know that having high rates of inflammation is not good for the skin, right? That means that the
Mm.
skin would age, it would thin, it would start to droop, all of those things. However, even though the GLP medications reduce inflammation, we found that practically it does have a negative impact on skin quality. We've noticed that when people are losing large amounts of weight on these medications, the skin becomes a little bit more lax, it becomes more saggy. You lose that glow, the vitality that one used to have. And because
Mm.
human beings, when we see good skin, we associate that with good health. We even associate it with wealth, we associate it with doing better professionally, all sorts of things. We even associate it with fertility. That's what the studies show, right?
Mm.
And that's why it's important that when our patients lose weight, large amounts of weight with these medications, we're able to then also improve their skin health by looking at things like, are you developing the dreaded, what we call Ozempic face, right? Is my face falling? Then we need to know
Yeah.
that this is going to happen. So start your aesthetic treatments while you're on the weight loss journey, right? So if one
Mm.
has skin laxity, so the skin is all, it doesn't snap back, then we use things like biostimulators to inject just underneath the skin in order to get new collagen forming and new elastin and just get that snapback coming back, we get improved radiance if one has a hollow, because of weight loss in the temples, that needs to be filled
Mm.
with something that's going to give you back that volume. So one would use filler for that, but there are a lot of different modalities. But yeah, there are lots of aesthetic treatments that can be done in order to support somebody who's on the medical weight loss journey.
Nice. I know we early into our discussion, but I also want to invite our audience, to comment, to ask questions. If you're on Telegram, as usual, raise your hand and you'll be able to ask the question live on the show. And we do have, in fact, some have asked questions. Can food allergies make obesity worse?
Yes, quick answer. Yes.
Yeah. Okay. And then, can food allergies make? Oh, yeah, yeah. Same question. Okay. two people? That's a worrying question, right?
Yeah, so
All
how it
right,
would
Doc.
work would be things like
Mm,
if you have a food allergy and then you get exposed to whatever it is that you're allergic to, it increases the amount of inflammation that's there in the body, and that would help to promote
mm, mm.
obesity, which is an inflammatory condition.
Okay. All right, that's cool. Now, Doc, you spoke about. All right, we do have a question on Telegram. Uh, Welcome to the show, Teboho. You can unmute yourself.
Oh, okay. Thank you. I hope you can hear me. Thank you, Doc, for discussing this very important. And I think I'm part of that group that's really just impacted by obesity. You know, you walk into a room, like there's a comment and a question. Sorry. Um, and yeah, people look at you, you're very much afraid of just eating in front of people. So what you end up doing is just not eating or eating very little, and then coming home and then just eating because of just that judgment. And I always say, I think in our household, I'm probably the one that gyms more. And if you look at us, you'd think that I look like I'm a very sedentary person. But the question that I had is twofold. One, when you start on the GLP medications, must you be on it for a long time? Or is there a time period maybe you've reached where the BMI is telling you that you are within the healthy range? Um, and also, is there a plan in terms of the research to make the medication a little bit less expensive than what it currently is? Because I sort of know sometimes medical aids might cover it up to a point, but then most of the time it does come up out of your pocket. Those are my questions.
Thanks,
Thank you
Deoko.
for that question, Teboho.
Those are really important
Go for
questions.
it, Doc.
And I love what you said about walking into a room, and everybody's already judging you. I actually just wanted to jump in to say, you'll actually find that in a family where one person is skinny and one person is obese, you actually find that the obese person eats a lot less than the skinny one and exercises a lot more than the skinny one. That also just goes to show that this is an innate disease, right? That nobody has caused. So you were asking how long one needs to be on treatment. So just like hypertension is a chronic medical disease that is managed with medication. So if you go off your antihypertensives, your blood pressure goes up, and it was only normalized by the medication that was managing it. Same thing with obesity. You need to manage it lifelong, which means one needs to be on obesity treatment medication lifelong.
Hmm. Is
So
is your question answered, Teboho?
I'm sorry, I didn't get that.
Yes, it is. And then just the second one in terms of
Can
is
you
there
be closer to your mic, Teboho? We're struggling to hear you.
uh,
Can you hear me now?
Oh,
Yes,
beautiful.
great.
Yes, yes.
Yes. So I was saying, yes, it has been answered. But the second question was, is there a plan then to make the medications a lot, well, affordable, so to speak? Because at the current moment, I think for like Ozempic, at the pharmacy, just for the 3 week jab, I think it's about close to 2,000 rand, if I'm not wrong. So is there a plan to, to bring the costs down?
You're so right, Deborah, that these medications are terribly expensive. And if one thinks that 75% of South Africans actually need treatment, 75% of South Africans cannot afford 2,000 Rand a month, and it goes up to almost 6,500 Rand a month, so that's substantial. So, what happens with pharmaceutical companies is they do all of their research and development, and then when they then launch a drug into the market, they then have to recoup their costs for their research and development and their businesses, right? So they need to make a profit from what they're selling. However, it does need to be almost it does need to tally with the market that you're working in. So if you're in a low income country, one cannot charge something that is on par with what you would be charging in the US, for example. So I know that there are lots of issues with access, but some of these drugs are going to be going off patent not too long from now. Some of them have already lost their patent and there are generics available. So that's going to keep happening, you know. And as generics become available, the price starts to go down because of competition. There are lots more competitors in the market. And that is definitely going to improve access. That is key.
All right. No, I think it's covered. And if you don't have any follow up question, Tawoho, just let us know. And we do also have comments on YouTube. And it's coming from Sister Kathy Siakamela. She says, does government facilities provide injectables like Ozempic or Munjaro?
In some tertiary hospitals, they do provide the GLPs and GIPs, but with very, very specific criteria. So, for example, there are some tertiary
Mhm.
hospitals where they've been able to motivate for their diabetics to get access to these medications. It's not widely available for obesity management, unfortunately. But yeah, there are little niche centers where it's available, but not widely available.
Okay. All right. Hope it's answered, Sister Kathy. And we have Louisa. She says obesity is the world pandemic and very costly. Yeah, it is costly. Any thoughts on that, Doc?
It is an extremely costly disease when one thinks about the complications of obesity, you know, if that includes a higher risk of cancers, you know, cancer management is very expensive, monetary wise, but also from
Mm.
a psychological aspect as well, right? Um, Management of other complications like cardiovascular disease, you know, once you have a heart attack, that's a very costly condition to have. So, yes, obesity increases costs of everything. And yeah, this is one of the reasons why we need to manage obesity. The cost of depression in our society is huge, and obesity is associated with higher
Mm.
risk of depression. So, yes, it's important to treat this condition the way it's supposed to be treated and deserves to be treated.
I don't know how this system has been, you know, I don't know what the word is, but to be created or formed that anything that is unhealthy is cheaper and easily accessible. But if you have to go health route, then you have to spend a lot of money. I don't know who can change this narrative that is currently going on here, but yeah, it needs to happen very soon. It does. You spoke about Ozempic phase, and I saw that it's becoming a trend online. Celebrities are jumping into it. I followed some videos just to research a little bit on it, and I seen that they're administering this even though they don't have you know um, an illness to cure for it. But someone said it was meant for people with type 2 diabetes. What is your thought there?
So, this group of medication, right, the incretins, was
Mm,
originally developed for the management of type 2 diabetes. And when
okay.
these meds were then used, some of the cardiologists then realized, oh my gosh, my post heart attack patients actually do better if they're also on a GLP versus the other guys that are on standard of
Mm,
care and are not on a GLP, purely because these drugs reduce cardiovascular disease, right? And then the nephrologist then discovered, oh my word, if I use these meds in my patients that have renal failure, for example, these medications are able to improve
mm,
renal dysfunction to some extent. They're renal protective. They protect your kidneys. There's studies that have shown that. And so they then got onto the bandwagon. And so what I'm trying to get at is that yes, these drugs were originally developed for the management of type 2 diabetes, but in the studies, it was then also seen these drugs
Mm.
also help people to lose weight. These drugs also are protective for the kidneys. These drugs are also cardioprotective. So, no, they're not just indicated for type 2 diabetes, they're also indicated for chronic weight management.
Right. One big concern, and I think a lot of people that are going through this will be asking, and you know, can't wait to get the answer to it. Once you administer the medical part of it, to lose weight, there's something that's left that needs to be taken care of: loose skin. So how can someone reduce the risk of loose skin during or even after medical weight loss?
So it really depends on the rates of the weight loss and also the areas where the loose skin is. So, for example, if the loose skin is on the body,
Mm,
that's something that we would refer to the plastic surgeons, right? They're the experts in treating that. If the person has
okay.
laxity in the face, that's where also your plastic surgeons come in, but also your aesthetics doctors, because there are many non-invasive or minimally invasive things that can be used to treat loose skin.
Mm,
So Ozempic face, right? Your face
okay.
falls, you get saggy jowls. So what one can then do is to inject biostimulators into the skin, just underneath the skin. And these are products that increase the amount of collagen and the amount of elastin that your body produces. That over time, especially after about 2 to 3 months, then tightens the skin and causes a little bit of lift in the face. But the other thing is it improves the thickness of the skin. It also improves what we call radiance in the skin. There's actually a mathematical formula for measuring radiance. And that's the whole term that we call glow, right? Everybody wants this glass skin, everybody wants to glow. That's what one can use to
Mm,
treat the sagginess and the laxity. When it comes to volume loss, so like I was saying, if for example I get
mm,
very, very hollow cheeks, we need to replace that volume. And that volume can then be replaced by using filler in a responsible way, in a way that makes one look natural, not in an alienizing way. So that's why it's so important that you speak to a doctor who is very knowledgeable in both aspects of, of, of treatment, right? A doctor who's very, very familiar with weight management, but then also a doctor who's very, very familiar with aesthetics treatment so that they can plan the correct treatment plan for you that is going to get you the most effective outcomes, but also in a natural way. So it's really just to be able to restore the best version of you that you can be in a natural way.
that's beautiful. Yeah, we just want to go back to how we looked, every one of us. Yeah, so we're really grateful that we have such an audience today, and your questions are really insightful. They're sparking, a conversation that we really need to have. So please don't shy away in asking those questions. We don't bite. I promise the doctor doesn't bite as well. And those on Telegram as well, you're more than welcome to raise your hand and ask the question. Now, as we propel, let's talk about wellness overall. How does weight loss help reduce inflammation and improve how someone feels day to day?
So, being obese is associated with increased levels of inflammation because as one gets larger, those fat cells, you don't have an increase in the number of fat cells in
Mm.
the body. It's just that those individual fat cells just get bigger and bigger. And at some point, that individual fat cell is going to
Oh,
outgrow its blood supply that has been feeding it. And that when that happens, that cell becomes distressed and starts to release free radicals into the body that then cause inflammation. So that is why, one feels tired, not as energetic as you normally would be when you are obese versus when you are what we call normal weight. Right? So that's how it then happens. And that's why it's important to treat the person holistically. So to look at how we can reduce obesity, but also how can we improve movement, because that's also going to act as an anti-inflammatory. How we can improve our mental resilience, because it also, funny enough, improves vitality and reduces inflammation as well. Did you know that stress causes inflammation in the body? So that's why
Mm.
obesity management is related to wellness. Even how one looks in the face, we're talking about the face and filling and all sorts of things. The happier you are with how you
Mm.
look, the better your mental wellness. And that's important. I really want to get this message out there that looking good and wanting to look good isn't vanity, it's self care. It's important. It's part of making yourself well. So it's important to look at all of those aspects. And we're in the month of love, right? So hashtag self care.
Now, as we go back to our chats there, any side effect to the GLP? This is coming from Sharon Bande on YouTube. Long-term risks.
So let's talk about side effects first. So, as with any pharmaceutical product, it has side effects. Paracetamol also has side effects, but
Mm.
these are all side effects that can be managed. So,
Mm.
the biggest side effects that you would have with these drugs would be gastrointestinal. So, what happens in the gut, in the stomach. So, they are associated with nausea. They are associated with either constipation or diarrhea, depends which group you're going to fall into. They are associated with a bit of an increase in reflux and the feeling of heartburn. And that's purely because these drugs delay the movement of food through the gut. So it makes you feel fuller for longer and it makes you feel fuller faster. So, yes, they are. Hi, are we back?
Welcome back, Doc. Yes, we
Hi,
can hear
yes,
you
I'm
now.
back.
Yeah, thank you so much.
Okay.
You almost send us to panic. Okay, so
So sorry,
yeah,
I'm not
we
sure what happened there.
no worries. It always happens. Um, at least we got you back. We do have a comment on Telegram. Taboho, you can unmute yourself.
Oh, sorry, I was speaking, still on mute. It's just a question leading from what Doc mentioned about when you starting on the really treating this chronic condition, you need a doctor who understands or who can provide you with a holistic approach. So my question is, are there any other medical professionals that would also need to be part of the support? So, I'm just thinking even from like a mental health perspective, the the sheer relief of just seeing the weight go down and not being judged anymore for looking the way that you are looking, would like a therapist or a psychologist be part of that management team to help with the journey, and also maybe somebody like a dietitian. So what would the doctor suggest, would the sort of the ideal holistic treatment be for somebody going through the medical treatment process?
So it's a team approach, and I really like what you said. So in my clinic, I work closely with a dietitian. I also work closely with a psychologist, as well as a biokinetist that has ties to, gyms and trainers and that kind of thing. So these are all professionals that are experts in their field who will be able to advise you in a way that I can't. The dietitian is going to be able to work out a high protein diet that will work for you specifically in your day to day life, that is practical and is something that you would like to eat. The psychologist would be able to help with the mental health aspects of, you know, the low mood and anxiety and things that are associated with depression. But also, funny enough, I've also come across a lot of my patients recently are saying that what makes them sad now, once they've lost their weight, is the fact that they're being treated differently. They're being treated better now that they're thin than they were when they were overweight. And that's something that a lot of people have to grapple with, you know.
Mm,
And yes, exercise, very important. So I also work quite closely with a biokineticist. So it's ideal if your doctor has a team or a referral network that they can send you to, but also who would also be able to help you with the aesthetic aspects of it, like we were mentioning, radiant skin, skin quality, volume loss, all of those types of things. So a team approach is super important.
beautiful. Yeah, before I go to my next question, there's a comment here. I put it there. It says, yes, it is true. Anything healthy is expensive, unfortunately. And it seems like the system is creating a society that relies on solutions, not prevention of illness. What can you recommend?
I agree totally that
Mm,
the system really is almost geared towards sabotaging your wellness, right? Because you're
mm,
right, refined foods are the cheapest foods. And when we eat to get full. One can't
mm,
tell somebody that has one meal a day because that's all that they can afford. You can't tell that person to go and buy fresh spinach and blueberries. That's crazy. So it's important to be able to, number one, lobby the government because that's very important. You've got the lobby groups that are looking at things like sugar tax, that are looking at good labeling on food so that we know what it is that we're putting into our food. Who are the food vendors around schools? Are they ensuring that what is available to the kids is healthy food and not fully processed foods? Another important thing to look at is small little veggie gardens around our homes, or
mm,
even communal veggie gardens
mm,
that we can start in our community groups, at churches, all of that kind of thing, because it can be done. I feel that it also requires just one person in that community who is willing to just take it on and be their champion, because it's always just needs that one person that needs to start,
mm.
and everybody then just joins in on the bandwagon.
Yeah, but majority of us, hopefully, I'm not generalizing a lot. We live in complexes, and we don't have our own gardens. So how do we now grow our little patch there, where we don't even have a garden, to walk into? Some of us are on the top floor where we only have the veranda, a small, veranda. How can we work
So
that
our
out?
little
Yeah.
verandas
Yes.
can also be worked, right?
Mm,
So I'm a keen gardener. And
mm,
yes, I'm fortunate because I have a big garden, but I've also had a small garden before.
mm.
And I then learned about vertical gardening, where on your little
Okay.
wall, you have whatever it is that you're going to use to be able to plant little pockets of whatever food it is that you'd like to grow that's easy to grow, you know. But also, what I learned as well is in our offices, we trade veggies, you know. So if I, for
Mm,
example, have had a big spinach harvest, I take that to the office because I know that somebody else would want to have that spinach. And when they have a big bumper crop of cabbages, they bring them to the office and we all just dig in. So it's about community. And yes, I understand it is difficult, but it can be done. You know, we don't always have the time that we would like to have to
mm.
be able to prepare all these wonderful foods and garden and stuff, but any little bit counts.
That's true. Louisa, I hope your question has been answered there. Would you have another comment on Telegram? Hilda, you can unmute yourself, and welcome to NMP Talk Show.
Thank you, Neil. My question is, if I'm using this Ozempic that are now in fashion, what are the chances of gaining more weight after losing that weight?
So one will gain weight one after one stops the medication because we're no longer managing the chronic medical condition. So that's why I'll go back to what I kept saying in the beginning of the program to say obesity is a chronic medical disease that needs to be managed lifelong. And by treating it lifelong, I mean by using your medication lifelong. Otherwise, the weight will come back.
Mm. Yeah. So it's a cycle, right? It goes round and round.
Yeah, it's important
A
to
very
really,
vicious
really,
cycle, Neo.
accept. Yeah, it's really important to make that distinction about just a condition that's temporary
Mm.
and a medical disease that stays with you lifelong. Because in the same way as I won't say to a hypertensive, okay, you can stop your treatment next week when your BP is okay,
Mm.
knowing that their blood pressure is going to be high again next week.
Mm.
I can't say that to somebody who's obese as well. So we do need to treat. It just is what it is. Chronic medical diseases need to be treated lifelong.
And hence the name chronic. Sure. Sharon, I've noted your question there. Hopefully, Dr. Kanzu will answer it where your clinic is just after the show. Hilda, is your question answered? I hope it is.
Neo, thank you. Thank you
All
so
right.
much.
No, thanks a lot. Now, Doc, I have another question for you, and this, a lot of people are talking about it all the time. How can someone get that more defined and a snatched face during and after the weight loss?
Yeah. So snatch seems to be the word of the year. In fact,
Yeah.
the word of the past 5 years. So it really depends. One needs to go to a doctor who's able to assess your face,
Mm-hmm.
and it's really individualized treatment. So for example, I was treating a friend not too long ago who had lots of hollowing after massive weight loss, and we started a journey. So I designed a treatment plan for her where we have an 18-month goal. We were going to do a specific treatment, like for example, we started her off with an injectable skin moisturizer because her skin was looking a little bit dry and saggy. And then the plan was 3 months later, we're then going to inject her with a biostimulator to give her that snatched look.
Mm.
And then 3 months later, that's when we're going to look back and see, okay, do we need a little bit of filler here? Do we need a little bit of filler there? So it's really a process to get the snatched look. I don't believe in quick fixes. They don't work and they don't look visually harmonious. Your face has to look the best version of you in the most natural way. But yes, that's my approach to getting a snatched look is to take things slowly.
Okay. It makes sense. It does. So, from your experience now, how does having a healthier skin affect one's confidence and mental wellness?
So again, I'm going to go back to the science. There was
Yeah.
a big study that was done in over 30,000 people around the world. South Africa is one of those sites
Mm.
where they asked people, what is your definition of good skin?
Mm.
And most people said it's skin that is glowing, skin that looks radiant, right? So those were the two big words. And then the other big thing was, what does good skin give you in life? And it was shown that people perceive us to be more intelligent when our skin is good. I mean, it sounds crazy to say that, right?
Mm. Mm.
But it's just an instinct, it's just a thought that people have, whether they verbalize it or not, but that's how we're perceived. People are perceived to be more fertile, even, right? If they have better skin, people are perceived to be friendlier when they have better skin, and they're perceived to be healthier. And we know that if people have a good perception of us, they're likely to treat us better.
Mm.
And so that is also associated with advancement in life. So, I mean, it may not be morally correct, but this is human nature. And that's why good skin health is associated with better confidence.
Yeah, no, that's true. And you can even tell it from the adolescent. When you get to when you start going into adolescence, you get the pimples. your confidence also, plummets. You can see them, they're shy. At school, there were those kids that would sit, or we were those kids that would sit on the corner, not socialize. But after you've moved off, adolescence, and your skin is now radiant and all of that, we meet with you on the street, we're like, "Oh, you, wow, you have changed." And I can see that if you look better or if you look good, your confidence also, radiates. Yeah, no, Doc, thank you
Can
so
I
much for
just
this.
make
Yeah,
a
yeah.
quick comment on
Please
that?
do. Please do. Yeah.
Please can we not forget the perimenopausal women that also develop acne?
Oh,
I'm one
yeah,
of them,
yeah, yeah.
right? Super important that we treat. Again, our teens, we shouldn't actually wait for them to grow through this phase and have all of this trauma and, acne scarring and all sorts of things. There are lots of medical treatments available to treat that as well.
Okay.
But please don't forget, us perimenopausal women, very important.
Aish. There is no way that we can forget you. Finally, Doc, for someone listening right now and who feels overwhelmed about this condition, I don't know if I'm right to call it a condition. What would you say is the very first step toward getting medical help for obesity?
The first step is to come and see a doctor and say, Doc, I have this problem. How can we treat my disease? If your doctor doesn't answer you in the correct way, which is, okay, let's sit down, let's talk about it, let's get you treatment, you move on. You find a doctor who's able to help you.
Awesome. Now, we can get to you, Sharon. Doc, they are keen to know where your clinic is.
So my clinic is in Midrand in an area called Bolu. So that's part of the greater Kailami area. And it's called Rain Aesthetics Medical Clinic. I'm there all the time. I love what I do. I love my patients. So you're always welcome to come and see me. One can look for me on Instagram, on TikTok, on Facebook. Most of the time, I make little educational videos for those things. It's Dr. Lesego at Rain Aesthetics Medical.
That's on Instagram as well, right?
On Insta, TikTok, Facebook, all of the different socials.
Awesome. We'll make sure that we post your links on the post production of this video. But thank you so much, Doc. Honestly, this has been such an important and eye-opening conversation that we just had. I know we have so much to talk about, but we plan to make episode 2 of this, so that we can expand more. And if there are more questions coming forward, then you'll be able to take them. And I think what really stands out for me is that obesity management is not just about weight loss. It's about health. It's about balance, confidence, skin wellness, and long-term quality of life. So yeah, a big thanks to you, Doc, again, for sharing your expertise on this. And I can vouch for you that you're a good doctor. Go for her. NMP.
Thank you so much.
NMP Talk Show guarantees that you'll be happy. And to everyone that is listening, please remember, seeking help is not weakness, it's strength. And taking that first step toward better health can truly change your life. So thank you for tuning in to NMP Talk Show. This episode has been fruitful and we've gained so much out of it. Thanks to the comments, the questions that we had on YouTube, also on Telegram. We really value your comments and your participation on this show. So until next time, stay informed, stay encouraged, and stay well.